Okay, and we're back. So the next segment, as we all know, as we're all used to, is the Ringside Report, in which we talk about all the latest news and rumours. As those of you who have been here from the start of the episode, you'll know that we have a special guest with us today, Mr. Orange Cassidy. Say hello, Orange. And of course, the man who puts the K in A2theK, we have Carl with us as well.
Hi everyone. I think you'll all agree it's just amazing to have, someone like Orange Cassidy here to join us on our podcast. I think he's, as you will have already heard, he's added loads of amazing insight so far. So I can't wait to see what he brings to this one as well.
And to be honest, I mean, obviously, Orange, you're in the business. It's an absolute privilege to have you here. We are humbled, and I imagine you're going to have loads to add to. You must know a ton of rumours and backstage little secrets that I'm sure you're going to share with us. So I do look forward to it. So I'll kick off if we could by, and this is stuff that I kind of wanted to allude to in This Week in Wrestling because it has a lot of bearing on it. But basically, the first news article I've got is that the mayor of Orange County has actually shut down the Performance Centre. Not, I make it sound like he deliberately came out and went, no, Performance Centre shut down. Basically, as of the 26th of March, any non-essential business or place like that has to be closed. So it's a blanket thing. It's not specifically targeted to the Performance Centre, but naturally the Performance Centre is not deemed essential. So technically, no one should be working from the Performance Centre as of the 26th of March, which would suggest that there's been a lot of, because WWE were aware of this, although we're only recently aware of it, they were aware of it, so there seems to be a lot of this frantic pre-taping to get everything together so that they can abide by the law and shut the Performance Centre down. So I'm curious as to whether they've had to maybe ignore the law a little bit, or whether they've managed to get a lot of the pre-taping elements done. I am curious about that, or whether that might be a reason for the shift in location for certain things, like NXT being back at Full Sail. But yeah, so it seems that the issue might not be an immediate issue for them. We're still going to get Mania, we're still going to get SmackDown and Raw and so on, but eventually they're going to run out of tapings, and potentially they might run out of locations that they can legitimately, legally film from if everyone's going to start blanketing this rule of non-essential works cannot be done. How do you feel about it, Carl?
I mean, it's going to be interesting. So we know that they've pre-taped a lot of stuff. So they pre-taped Mania. They actually pre-taped the post-Mania Raw before they even taped Mania. So we know they've done some stuff in advance. But if this is being put into effect from the 26th of March, like, if they can't film, what does that mean? So, are they going to have to stop with episodes for a while? And, if they can emanate from the Performance and if they can emanate from Full Sail, then, why can they still emanate from there but not the Performance Centre?
I know it's an unusual one, isn't it? I think I'm not sure where. Do you know where Full Sail's located?
Just in Florida as well. So.
Right. So it should be under the same ruling then.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not sure what that is. I don't know if they can sort of get around it by literally moving, like, I don't know if it's across America, you see, or whether it's because it's the Orange County mayor who's put it in, so whether each state then has to enforce this and put this in, so maybe that they can move around the country until everywhere's done it. I don't know, but it smacks of probably a little bit of fear for the future of going, depending on how long this closure is. They could run out of stuff to actually put on the air, and what are they going to do? Are they going to start doing reruns? Never seen it before, but are they going to start doing it?
I mean, I think if worst came to worst, then I think WWE would rather stick on a rerun show than nothing at all, because anything to still get the WWE kind of product out there. So I think that would be the case. But I think if more and more places start doing this and start shutting things down, like you mentioned a really good point before around the likes of AEW, who don't have that back catalogue, what would they do in a time like this? So it's going to be.
I mean, they might get away with putting like stuff that isn't normally televised on Dynamite, and go, well, we'll put some other AEW stuff on so we can start playing some dark matches on the TV rather than YouTube, or we can start putting Be the Elite on the TV. I don't know if the Yanks get that televised. We certainly don't. We only get Dynamite. But maybe they can sort of play around with the format in that sense and put some of the other stuff they're putting out there in its place. But yeah, it's going to be a lot harder for them than it is WWE. They've got a massive back catalogue. They could even start putting some old WCW stuff on if they fucking wanted to.
Yeah. Crazy times. I think it's just unprecedented, isn't it? I think, as you've said, crazy to think we might be in a time where WWE are putting out reruns or, unable to film new shows. It's just mad. Just interesting to see how it all unfolds, really.
Yeah, totally unreal. So the next one I've got is there's a few other names, but I'll mention the biggest one and then we'll carry on with that. But the big news hit that Roman Reigns will not be at WrestleMania. Now, I wanted to mention this earlier, and I thought, no, I'll wait till now, because we had this news hit. Obviously, we reacted to this on social media as well in some respects, but it seems fairly foregone. It come from Dave Meltzer's, I can't remember what they call his website now, but they come from Dave Meltzer. That's the info that's been handed down. He's not one to take any risks. Totally understandably, I think we mentioned it last week that it makes a bit of sense if his immune system's low due to leukemia and such. Why would you take any risk in that sense? But it seems that he's not going to be participating in Mania. Weirdly though, it wasn't acknowledged at all on SmackDown, and this news came out before SmackDown. So I'm not sure what the reaction is of WWE, whether it's a bit of misinformation and they've actually already filmed Roman's bit, because there is a lot of pre-taping, or whether there is truth to the fact that Mania is not going to have Roman in it at all, and in which case WWE have done nothing to deal with that issue. And by all accounts, well, from what you see on SmackDown, they were still sort of advertising it as well. So I don't know what the deal is with that match going forward.
I feel like as well, it's all gone a bit quiet since this came out. Like, I feel like we haven't had any further updates. It was strange for them not to, mention it or have any kind of allusions to the fact on
even
SmackDown
if they couldn't film anything, they could have done a quick voiceover and gone, look, we received this news, blah blah blah. Understandably, it's difficult times, but they didn't address it even slightly. They even advertised the match between the two of them. So it's like, well, and the graphic was saying face to face, and you're like, well, is it? So it seems a bit. I don't know if maybe we're well aware that he's now isolating, and the suggestions got out there maybe a bit incorrectly, and they actually have managed to film the match. I don't know, but the suggestion on the back of it was that Braun Strowman was the likely replacement for him, which would have been shocking. Let's assume a Braun Strowman versus Goldberg match happens. How do you feel about it, Carl?
I mean, let's be honest. Any Goldberg match isn't going to be fucking match of the night anyway, is it? And I mean, I don't know what's worse, because I wasn't looking forward to Spear versus Spear, so I'm not looking forward to fucking him getting these hands if that's the case. But I don't know whether people are just jumping on that because Braun doesn't really have an opponent at this time or what really. But I think it's just that whole level of uncertainty on what's actually happening, because for all we know, it could just be fucking Dave Meltzer chatting shit or getting the wrong end of the stick, which wouldn't be the first time, and then everyone going crazy about it. But because how pissed off would you be if you're the Fiend? Because Vince has obviously dropped you like a bad habit a couple of months before, took the title off you to really build up to Spear versus Spear, and then that match won't even happen potentially. Like, you'd be fucking pissed, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah. It seems a good time actually when you mention the Fiend to give a shout out to a bit of a conversation that was had on YouTube, in which it was I made a comment in relation to potential for Braun versus Goldberg, and some of the response, I want to say his username was Blackwind50. Not that it matters too much. We just give him an honest shout out that it was his suggestion that they could adjust it so that the winner of John Cena versus The Fiend goes on to face Goldberg for the title, all in the same night. And I think that would be a boss booking idea to deal with the situation. And you could even storyline that out. You could even have The Fiend or Bray Wyatt explain that he had to face John. There's that history there, and he needed to face John at Mania, and he knew that if he still held the title, that wouldn't be the case. So he deliberately didn't carry on. He didn't put the effort in with Goldberg, and now he's dealt with John. He's going to go back for the title or whatever. They could have even storyline it out if that was the case. So they could give the steam back to the Fiend, and I think that, admittedly, it's a suggestion from a conversation we've had on YouTube with someone, but as far as the booking goes, that would be an absolutely fucking brilliant idea.
The only thing that makes me think that might not happen is if they have having to do this as a Firefly Funhouse match now, then I don't know whether the different locations might become a factor for them, for either of those two being able to kind of play.
That's a fucking good point. That's a really good point, that they're clearly going to film that match on location, so or already have, as the case may be. But it'd be unrealistic for them to get back to Goldberg, wouldn't it? So I do take points on that. But so along with Roman being out, we've also received information that Rey Mysterio, The Miz, and Dana Brooke might or are likely to be in isolation. So interestingly, that would put The Miz out of the tag match for Mania, which would mean they would either not be able to do the tag match because he's one of the tag title holders, or more likely that they would get a replacement. And again, another little suggestion that's being knocked about is, because it's obviously John Morrison by himself, is to bring Joey Mercury in just for one match to replace The Miz. And it'd be worth a chuckle just for that. But very unlikely because he's been a long time out of the ring. But what do you think the likelihood is that they might do a replacement for The Miz?
I mean, it's going to be weird, isn't it, if they do that, because he's a tag champ. It's not like he's one of the contenders. They can just swap it out. It's like one of your champions isn't available. So I don't even know what the official rulings would be, if they were actually to lean into whatever them rulings should be, if it was a real thing. But just to insert someone else, I don't know. But I mean, I would love to see Joey Mercury and a little Eminem reunion, only without Melina.
Yeah, it would be nice to see, just for a bit of nostalgia. I think again it would be a very good move for WWE if they had to do something, but very unlikely to happen. And again, this is purely speculative. Whilst we're hearing about these isolations and these wrestlers who are currently unable to participate, we don't know whether their segments have already been filmed. So we don't know whether he's going to be out of Mania, as it were, or whether they've already filmed it. So technically, he's still part of it. He's just not going to be, allowed to leave his home by the time Mania hits. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it'd be interesting to see what actually comes forward as matches that they've already taped, because this is all stuff that's getting leaked out. No one from the WWE is officially announcing stuff just yet. So we'll see what happens there, really. And again, they made no mention of it on SmackDown, and it was information that was available before SmackDown aired, so they could have put a mention out like, oh, unfortunately, The Miz, this and that, but they haven't. So it might be that they've already managed to film the tag match. And next, I've got, here's a shocker for you, Carl. Jon Moxley made his WWE debut.
What?
Dean Ambrose made his return to WWE.
Orange, did you know about this?
Oh, you did? Okay.
Oh, okay.
Fair enough. So, obviously, joking aside, this is just a little bit of a funny one. That Renee Young, obviously, is now having to film WWE backstage from a house along with the other hosts. And Jon Moxley had to come and collect the dog. So, accidentally ended up in a shot in the background behind Renee to pick the dog up. So, we saw Jon Moxley on WWE programming for the shock value of it. So
I wonder whether I wonder whether Renee will be in any hot water for that now. I wonder whether it's pissed anyone off that's happened. Surely not. Do you know what I mean? But
I mean, it might piss Vince off because you know what Vince is like. But at the same time, the WWE backstage is a Fox product. It's the reason they're able to have CM Punk on there. He's not contracted to WWE. He's contracted to Fox. So, whilst WWE must have some level of approval to it, I don't think anyone can get pissed off about it per se. But knowing Vince McMahon, he probably is.
I secretly wish he was ran in there with an AEW t-shirt on or something.
That would have been really funny. I've heard rumours that Vince McMahon is actually pissed off with the dog, which makes a bit of sense.
Apparently he heard the dog sneeze in the background and he was just going
exactly,
furious.
Yeah. And obviously Jon Moxley quickly tried to deal with that situation, but to no avail. So yeah, just a bit of a funny one there. Sadly, the next one's not so funny, and it's that the AOP are out of action. which makes a bit of sense. You've probably seen that they're totally absent without really much explanation. They're not with Rollins now. They're just not around. The reason for that, weirdly, is that do you pronounce it Razor or is it Razar? I don't know. Anyway,
Razor, I think.
Razor is he's torn his right bicep, and he's currently having surgery. And weirdly, WWE they won't be using Akeem without, again, hope I pronounce that right, without his tag partner. So it's either the AOP or no one. So he's now basically on hiatus until Razor is able to wrestle again. But as you know, Carl, from bicep injuries, he'd be looking, approximately 8 months for recovery time. So it just puts the pair of them out unnecessarily when one of them... Rollins still could have had Akeem. Is it Akeem? Am I saying it right?
Yeah.
He could have still had Akeem there as a big bruiser, who's his bodyguard essentially. But they've just gone, no, we're not. It's either the Authors of Pain or none. So I don't know if they're going to stick to that, because 8 months seems like a long time to just not use somebody because his tag partner's not there.
I wondered what the recency is of the injury, because I wonder whether he's actually had it for a little bit of time, and that's why they never ended up getting the tag titles, in the first place, because we were quite critical of the fact that it was Rollins and Murphy who had them, and it should have been the AOP. But don't know how long Razor has been harbouring this injury for, but it would make a bit of sense.
That's a fair point, yeah, because we're being told about the surgery element, but yeah, he could have been dealing with it for a little bit, couldn't he? Yeah, it's a fair point. But yeah, I mean, I hope him a speedy recovery, and I was backing them as people who should have been tag champs, so it is a real shame. And I don't want to say it like this because I'm not being mean to him. I don't, no one should have to go through those injuries. No one should have to have time out of work for that. But it's a blessing in disguise, because I genuinely want to see Rollins versus Owens with no fucking shenanigans, just them two having a match.
Amen.
Yeah. And it's almost forced, that situation. I know they could still throw Buddy Murphy in there, but let's face it, we're not going to, are we?
Fucking better not.
They fucking better not. So I'll move on to the next one. This one, Carl, I'm afraid you're going to have to get your tinfoil hat on for this one, because this is me speculating. This is me putting stuff together. It's a conspiracy. But basically, I'm seeing a lot of YouTube videos and articles on Vince McMahon has labelled Punk as the one person he'll never do business with. And that seems such a definite statement, and sort of randomly out of nowhere, that it makes me feel like they're deliberately saying that, so it's more shocking when he comes back. And that's what I'm speculating. I reckon Punk's going to return. I think it'd be almost daft to have him return at Mania with no crowd and no pop. But the fact that I keep seeing things where they're saying Vince McMahon would never work with Punk just makes me think, well, he clearly is fucking going to then, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, with Vince McMahon, you never say never. There's been a million people who have burnt their bridges with WWE who've always ended up kind of getting back into bed together with them. So I don't know. It's an interesting one. I think the problem is that who's going to fucking care if CM Punk comes back now? He's just, he's not even a hot act anymore. He left when he was, on top of the wrestling business. He gave it all up, went out to be a UFC star, got twatted twice, came back to
did not help.
a bit of a damp squib on, backstage, generated a bit of buzz, and then, from what I hear, because I don't watch it, but he kind of comes across as a bit of an ass on the show anyway. So I feel like
not even on the show, he made some quite visceral remarks on Twitter as well. I can't even remember who it was to, but it was to one of the WWE stars saying that you should go and suck at blood. What was it? It was something about the Saudi money, basically tell him to go suck a dick. But it was quite unnecessarily aggressive for the comment that was made, from what I gather. So he seems a bit of a dick in general, really. But he's always been rather hot-headed and rather opinionated. But it works when it's a character, and you want to get behind the character. When he's just going around being a person, you know what I mean? In real life, it doesn't work as well. He's probably an unbearable person in real life. But there you go. But I honestly think that they're probably building to some sort of return, because they're so... it seems so sort of intentional to tell me that they're never going to work together. It's like, well, okay, I don't know why you feel the need to tell me that 10 years later. So I just wanted to mention that one. The next bit we've got is this Boneyard match, Carl. The Boneyard match. Apparently, a lot of people were like, "What the fuck's a Boneyard match?" So AJ Styles has sought to clarify it in some way. So we're not fully clear on the match because he was being still a bit vague, but he did make it clear that it was going to take place in a graveyard or cemetery, if you will, and that it's going to involve a grave. So it sounds essentially like an on-location buried live match. That's what I'm getting. However, and it doesn't add much, but AJ said expect some sort of surprises or unusual thing. You know what I mean? Like don't expect it to be as straightforward as all that. So there's probably going to be something more to it that they're not giving away just yet. But it seems they're just really desperately trying to avoid using the term graveyard or anything like that because it sounded a bit too dark. So it's a boneyard now. Well, it seems the thing that we've seen before is, and I honestly worry now that they're going to do exactly what they did with Kane, and Kane has to bury the Undertaker for the Undertaker to come back properly as the dead man, and you're like, wait, what? Which worked with Kane because he was the American Badass when that happened, but with this one, it's going to be, well, he was already kind of the dead man. You brought him back from retirement to have a match with him, to bury him, to make him the dead man. So I hope they're not doing that, but just because he keeps calling him Mark and he keeps doing that bit, and then now suddenly it's like, well, yeah, we're going to have this match that is essentially a buried alive match. So I'd be interested to see where they're going with it, but that's pretty much what information we've been given about the Boneyard match.
I think for me, it just sounds hokey as fuck. Like, how are they going to turn that into a good match?
That's the thing. I think WrestleMania is probably going to end up being a bit Marmite here, to be honest. I think you're either going to love it or hate it because there seems there's going to be a lot of on-location stuff. And again, it's kind of like the Matt Hardy stuff where it's like it either works or it doesn't, and some people might love it. I think it's going to be very polarizing. I think you're going to have a lot of people, one half going, that was fucking brilliant, and another half going, it really wasn't. Sadly, I think, I don't want to speak for you, Carl, but I think both you and me are probably going to be in the camp of, no, that wasn't any good.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a sad thought, isn't it? Shall we say, for 36 WrestleManias having watched to maybe get to a point where one of them just doesn't feel like a WrestleMania.
Yeah, and sadly, I don't think it is going to feel like one. But we'll still be there. We'll still be watching it. We'll still be supporting it. And we can only hope that things change soon. So I'll move on again while we're sort of touching on the subject of the COVID-19. Just a quick mention that apparently Daniel Bryan will be, and it'll be a difficult thing for him, and it's not really much of a news article, but just the fact that because he is going to be participating in Mania, he is apparently going to have to be isolated from his family until he can be tested and cleared, which makes a lot of sense because obviously his wife's heavily pregnant and he has a young daughter, I believe. So it makes sense that he's not going to, if the potential's there for him to be infected, he's not going to go and pass it around. But sadly, that'll mean I believe he's going to be isolated for at least 7 days whilst they test and make sure he's clear, which doesn't sound like a lot, but obviously, as you being a family man yourself, Carl, you'll know that that's quite a tough thing to do.
Yeah, definitely.
And, much credit to him that he's playing it safe and having to be away from his family to do that. So, fair enough to him.
Yeah, hopefully with the, modern powers of technology, you can still video chat with Birdie and Brie, stuff, but it would be hard being away from them for a week. Oh, definitely, yeah. So just a quick mention on that one, really. Then we move on to, I don't know if you're aware of this one, Carl. Teddy Hart has been arrested. Yeah, I heard. Apparently, he's with, is it Maria Manic, I believe, Ring of Honor wrestler. And she has been his partner for some time, but his arrest was over a charge of strangulation against her, and he could be looking at 5 years in prison. Now, for those of you who are listening who are going, who's Teddy Hart? He's not really had a big WWE career. Correct me if you disagree there, Carl. But you might remember him most notably from being part of the New Heart Foundation when that was a thing, when Natalya was sort of getting that pop. He was a member of that, and he apparently, I don't know there's much truth to this because he has worked with WWE since that, but apparently he had a bit of an attitude problem, which is largely why he's not in WWE now.
and I don't know if maybe he's a bit of a hothead in that sense, and maybe there is something there as to him having some sort of anger issues. I don't know, but yeah, he's potentially looking at 5 years in prison now, which is not. I mean, obviously we all know the Hart family. We probably don't know Teddy all too well, but we know the Hart family, so it's never a good thing to read.
No, it's a proper tale of tragedy with Teddy Hart. He is so athletically gifted and talented. I remember probably going on 10 years ago now, seeing him on the indies doing, some serious flippy shit before flippy shit was cool. Like, this guy was doing like 900-degree flips and crazy stuff like that. It wasn't fully technical like your standard Hart, but he did train in the Hart dungeon. He's basically the son of Georgia Hart, so basically he's Stu's grandson. He's Brett's his uncle.
Brett's nephew, yeah.
Yeah. So, but no, he is really talented. He just has never been able to get out of his own way. This isn't the first kind of battle he's had with the law. And as you've said, he is a hothead. He has, been done for battery and for drugs and for intoxication and everything. And it's just a shame, because if you've removed the attitude and the mental side of it, as a performer, he was very, very gifted, and it was the only thing that ever kind of stood in his way of being someone, really. So it's a real shame. It would be, I'd love to kind of go back and actually, if all that stuff wasn't, didn't get him, then to see what kind of career he would have had.
Yeah, definitely. It is a real shame, and hopefully, he might come out of the other side of it a better person. But sadly, his history so far seems to be that he might have sort of ruined his own career, really. I don't think, and certainly, and again, I don't know how true it is, but that seems to be the reason he's not with WWE. And I don't know whether that's a permanent ban per se, because they don't really say a lot on stars that aren't that big. It's not really newsworthy when he leaves. But yeah, apparently he had a proper attitude problem in the WWE. So again, I don't know whether that might sort of reflect as to his attitude in general, and he's probably assuming he doesn't get too long a prison time. He might have fucked his own career here with this one, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then the last one I've got is that it's actually further to, we mentioned last week about Braun Strowman making some remarks about indie wrestlers and how they should basically go and make some money then. Essentially, being a bit of a twat, and I think remember you saying that he seems to have a bit of an attitude on him, and we discussed on some level about the person he seems to be is probably not a very nice person. So apparently, some of the people he is friends with in the WWE fully understand the plight of the indie wrestler, and have explained that to him. And as a result of them explaining that to him, he has actually issued an apology for his comments. Okay. Which, fair play to him, that's big enough for him to do. Bear in mind, this man stuck to his guns for nearly a week. He blocked people who would argue with him or whichever, and he was very much like, I'm in the right, they should just deal with it. And I don't know, they haven't actually said who it is who's educated him, but he has since apologised because he's been made aware of the difficulty for wrestlers on the indie scene, especially those who aren't like well known in WWE, which he is. He's from a point of privilege, isn't he? He's fairly high up in the biggest promotion in the world, so he's talking from a different position. And I'll give him credit for apologising, but basically I think someone's turned around and gone, Braun, you're being a dickhead there, and he's gone, probably. But what do you make of that one?
I think from I saw a couple of notes on it, and I think it sounded like I think he was quoted as he sort of gets it. So I still don't think he fully, I don't think he cares. I think he's just being told to apologise.
For me, I think that's what I think someone's gone, no, you're being a tit, and he's sort of has to apologise. I think he probably does understand it a bit better now, but like you say, the sort of, I suppose, the backhanded element that you've mentioned there of him saying he sort of understands it probably suggests that he still wants to stick to his guns, but probably feels more compelled not to because he's realised he's coming under fire for it.
Yeah.
But like you say, it seems to be him in his nature, doesn't it?
I know. Hopefully he, because I don't think he's even that old. So hopefully he'll just get a bit more mature as he stays in the business, and hopefully he does have a good career, and kind of gets that maturity aspect of it, grows that in that capacity.
Yeah, that's a good point. Braun, if you're listening, instead of getting these hands, maybe get that maturity. Just a thought. Just a thought. So, Carl, I'm looking forward to our third segment. Sorry, I won't jump. Right, Orange, do you have any news that you want to bring to the table? Okay. Leave it at that. Don't only chatting. You're off. Carl, do you have any news you want to bring to the table?
I mean, I think you've pretty much covered everything. The only small tidbit I had was a tweet from Jake Roberts that came out today. I don't know if you saw it.
I haven't.
So he basically tweeted, it's getting tough being alone all the time. The hotel room keeps shrinking. I'm jealous of all those with family or partners. I'm still sober. So I just, what I mean?
That's heavy.
I hope he stays strong, because he's done such a fantastic job to pull himself out of a really dark place, and
yeah. And genuinely, and I mean this with utter sincerity, I'm not trying to take the piss in any way, it was fantastic to see him clean and see him so on form when he returned. When he came to AEW and he cut his promo, and he was awesome, and it was so great to see that. And like you say, I want him to at least take that. Not that he's going to listen to our podcast, but I want him to at least take that from it, is that the fans are out there and they love seeing him where he is and seeing him back. And he's got to try and keep his head straight, especially right now.
Well, that's it. When there's not a whole hell of a lot going on in the world, it's hard to distract your demons. So
it is.
When you're kind of stuck in a hotel room on your own, boredom creeps in and other thoughts will be creeping in. Must be really difficult for him. So, hopefully he'll get through this. And, if anyone does listen to this, I think, go and offer him a couple of words of encouragement, especially for the work he's been doing of late on Dynamite, and, just help him through this, because he's done such a good job. And, let's make sure he comes out of it still sober, still clean.
And again, anyone who is listening, I'm sure we're going to offer our encouragement at some point as well. We do attack the social medias, don't we, Carl?
Yes, we do.
So we're certainly going to be on there. I'm not much of a social media guy myself, but I'm inspired by this tweet. I wasn't aware of it, but I certainly want to sort of go on there and offer some encouragement. It's awesome to see him back. So yeah, definitely, if you are listening and you want to do that, definitely get on there.